Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body. Because I am more than physical matter, I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world. I deeply desire to expand, to experience, to know, to understand, to control, to use such greater energies and energy systems as may be beneficial and constructive to me and to those who follow me. I deeply desire the help and cooperation, the assistance, the understanding of those individuals whose wisdom, development, and experience are equal to or greater than my own. I ask their guidance and protection from any influence or any source that might provide me with less than my stated desires.
Do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. Do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I'm the void one.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
All broadcasting live from a shack on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void live here on the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting. That's fringe.fm. Also live on YouTube and Twitch and Kick. So if you happen to go over to those other channels, which is basically like the channels I play on to game with, you have to look under Magic, M-A-G-I-C-K, Magic Maniac. And we'll be over there. It is a full moon. Welcome for all of you here that are here spending time with us tonight. It is definitely a full moon, isn't it? It's beautiful. You gotta love it. So, real quick, I don't think we're not safe. You know, like, I don't know why people are setting themselves on fire. I don't care what people say, like, especially for politics or whatever. Like, that's a pretty crazy thing, but I don't want it to scare anybody. I mean, every now and then it's just something weird, just like, that's insane. That just threw me off. It really did throw me off. I don't have much to comment about it. I mean, like, people make statements in all kinds of ways. Let's just say that I don't understand it. Like, I don't understand it. I don't understand anything that you would harm yourself to make a statement. I've never understood that. I think there's other ways to do it, but, like, there's nothing to really talk about. I mean, people have talked to me about it and asked about it, and it's like, who am I? I don't know why that person did that. I don't. To me, it's insane. It's insane. I can't imagine, like, I'm way too, like, self-centered to hurt myself for other people. Like, I mean, I don't see the point in doing it, much less, like, if I was going to off myself, I guess I would do it old-fashioned style, man. I don't know. Like, someone wanted to make some kind of statement, whether they were in the right state of mind or not, that they were willing to, like, suffer in front of people to make their statement. And, you know, I know this is going to sound crazy, but we all have freedom, I guess. So who's to tell that person they can't do it? The only thing I'm worried about is the state of affairs, and like the only thing that bothers me is like the power that politics and religion have to begin with. Like they shouldn't have, it's 2024. They shouldn't have, even though they do run a lot of things, they should have no power over us at this point. Like we should be aware enough, I would hope, but whatever, man. Other than that, you know, I hope you're enjoying Fallout. It is kind of crazy, you know, like how they rush this stuff. Every time something's going on in the world, we got TV shows that kind of resemble the thing that we're most afraid of and how to live in that environment, whether it's the occult, it started out zombies, then it turned into occult stuff, and now it's nuclear fallouts and things like that. But have no fear. Just come to Arkansas if you start worrying about that stuff. I can find you a spot here. You're not in a low enough vibe to comprehend it, Barefoot Hippie said. I don't comprehend why people want to hurt themselves. Like I do, don't get me wrong, I do understand suffering. That's why I've never been the kind of guy that's like, you know, if someone wants to end their suffering and take their own life, I think there are people that have good reasons for that, unless you're Catholic or something and you think you're going to burn in hell for eternity. But that's a pretty touchy subject. But I cannot comprehend anything. There's ways to fight things or what you believe in or what you stand for. And in my opinion, it's kind of old school, but the best way to make an impact on the world, if you want to make an impact on the world, it's really not the internet. I mean, the internet is cool for the internet. That's kind of like weird that I'm saying that, but the internet's cool to express yourself. It's like art to me. It's what the internet is. It's cool to communicate to, but it's also like art. If you really want to make an impact on the world, it starts right where you are, your home, your family, your friends, and your community. And you could, if we all just fought our battles in those places, everything would change. County to county, state to state, all that stuff. That's about as all political as I'm going to get, because the rest of it's a dumbass game. I mean, it's obvious that you could see the levels of manipulation that are going on. It's not that we're not safe. It's not that an outbreak is going to happen or a meteor is going to hit us. Like any of that stuff could happen at any point in time. The war that we're fighting is the war of our minds. It always has been. We're in this like influencer age where anybody can say a certain thing and present it a certain way, and the mind just tends to take it in as truth. You know, so I don't believe in that. Actually, I believe there are fundamental truths. Like if I stop breathing, my body dies, you know, this body will die. That's a fundamental truth. Or if someone cuts me, I'm going to bleed, those kind of truths. But the rest of like who we are, we should be telling the outside world as individuals who we are. Not, life is so awesome and precious to me to do that kind of thing, I guess. I don't know. Maybe, man. We just don't know. Like you don't know. It's been one crazy month. We lost a friend who was suffering, obviously, and took his own life. A dear friend. We've lost, I don't know anything about that person. I don't even know why I'm talking about it. It's just so freaking weird that it happened. The last time that happened was right before war, wasn't it? Yeah. So anyways, we're going to have a guest on tonight, and I have to thank a few people that have donated to the station. But I want to tell everybody that if you get those, I probably should put this in the description. If you get those Magic Tatwa scrying cards, it's going to take a while for you to get them because they're print to order, and it's the cheapest place I could find to print to order these things that are that price. Everybody else wanted like $50, stuff like that. Like, I ain't doing that. I'm not going to charge somebody $60, $70 for a freaking deck of cards. And these things are only meant for us to kind of focus on and, I'm hoping 5 or 10 people at least will get some, and then we'll start doing some extra. So Henry, yeah, thanks, brother, for the donation. Appreciate it. Also, Joseph. Man, Joseph's been, Carrera has been, said your last name, sorry. He's been donating for, just like Genevieve, for a long time, man. Old school. Okay. So before we have our guest on tonight, I promised I would review this book. I think you should get this book. Big time. Okay. I finished it. Jason Quitt. I'm going to have to read it again. Like, this is a book you're going to have to read 2 or 3 times. Okay. But Jason Quitt's book, Gates of the Anunnaki, all of this information is probably being talked about. I think I saw a guy commercial where a guy was talking about some of the same stuff that's in Jason's book. It's funny how has this ever happened to you? Like when you think of an idea or something happens and then you like put it out there and then all of a sudden everybody's talking about it. It's weird, right? So, and then, or other people will try to take credit for it and all kinds of stuff. But you could tell that Jason did all this work. Now, here's one of the reasons why I'm going to tell you. It's a beautiful thing, but one of the reasons why I don't like religion, because they don't follow their own books and don't even comprehend. It's like there's so many beautiful books, stories, and mythologies that we should be reading and picking apart. And I think when Manly P. Hall talks about in his manuscript what the ancient wisdom expects from his disciples, that once you start digging into this stuff, that there are 7 keys in divine revelation. He said that in his manuscript. Well, I personally think that Jason Quitt has revealed one of those keys. Now, what it means, let's look this up real quick so I don't missay something on the internet. God forbid, right? So what does revelations mean, right? What is revelation? I mean, it's obvious what it means. Revelation is the act of revealing or disclosing something that was not previously known. This is the definition. So in a religious or theological context, revelation is the communication of some form of truth or knowledge from a deity or other supernatural entity or entities. Revelation can be seen as a way of gaining insight into the divine will or the nature of reality. If that is indeed the definition of revelation, then Gates of the Anunnaki has definitely, in my opinion, revealed one of those keys, if not 2. So in this book, he touches on lots of different stories that go from the Bible all the way back to Mesopotamia. A lot of stories that I'm not going to reveal the whole book. I don't think you can anyways, because I don't want to get ahead of myself too. So there's the Bible. There's both books of the dead in here. There is all of the stuff that was in the cylinder seals, Zechariah Stitchin stuff. But when you get into the stories, it's not like you start to see these stories as nursery rhymes. Now, I'm not saying for a fact that none of this stuff actually happened, but when you get through this book, you're going to find that it reveals a pattern, just like he said when he was on the show, a fingerprint. And this fingerprint that he revealed in this book is amazing. And I really am hoping actually, that this wakes some people up. Because you guys remember when, what was that show that came out? Where they were talking about all of the birth, death, and resurrection was in every text. And all, it was Zeitgeist. That's what it was, Zeitgeist. So they were talking about that stuff, but there was still like this orthodoxy argument that was like, well, those are all just falsifications and yada, yada, yada. This is what I mean by why religion is just annoying as politics is. Well, if you look at the mathematical structures behind all of these texts and the stories that they're telling reveal the truth, but not in the nursery rhyme form. Now, I'm just talking about there's different sides to this book, okay? There's the numerology and this sexagesimal, I guess that's how you say it, sexagesimal, that system, that is set up in every one of these stories. Oh, man, I got another pterodactyl here in the shack. I hope this thing doesn't dive bomb me while I'm on the air. So, the order of the beast, it makes you think about, well, what is the beast? Is the beast in divine revelation really talking about a number 666? Or is it talking about a code? Dude, that thing is going to dive bomb me. It's one of those, I'm telling you, this is what sucks. Like, I have to keep the door open to get airflow in here in the shack. And like, there is no light anywhere but the shack. And it's one of those beetles. Like, if you ever biking, you're riding on a motorcycle and they hit you, about knock you off. Yeah, that's what that is. So this sexagesimal system could be the beast, right? What if worshiping the beast is in fact worshiping the mythology or the mystery? Now, I thought about this. This makes you think about this stuff. Now, in this book, Jason shows you a pattern that's revealed through what the Bible talks when the Bible says, be not a study of the letter, right? It's trying to tell you something. Let me see if I can find that verse. Sound like we're in church now. I think, isn't that Peter, Paul, something like, be not a study of the letter or something like that. Anyways, there's a verse in the Bible. I'll find it later. Not of the letter of the Spirit. There's a whole bunch of different verses that talk about that because it wants you to look deeper into the mystery. So first, when you read a story, you just like when you watch a movie, you understand, your consciousness understands the plot. It understands the characters. It understands the consequences of the actions of the characters in the story. And then there's some kind of arc where there's a problem and then there's a lesson to be learned. And just like children, and you turn the page and you show them the pictures and you get them to understand the lesson of the story, right? The second thing is like the metaphors, right? The metaphors of the symbols of what these characters stand for. Funny enough, though, you would think that that was it, right? You would think that that's as far as this stuff goes, but it's not. When you put these codes to it, we have a couple of codes that were taught in the mysteries to decode text. One was Akbeker, another one was Gematria. There's different forms of Gematria, or Gematria, however you want to say it. But when you start decoding these stories, it shows the literal numbers of creation in every story in that order, in the same order as the story unfolds. It shows the distances, y'all ready for this? Between the earth, the sun, and the moon. The stories, the nursery rhymes have the mathematical equations built in them. How's that possible? Let's think about that for a minute. We've thought about this for a long time. We thought, man, how in the hell did some of these guys, like, back in the day, know about quantum physics and all this stuff? It just blows our mind, or where certain things were in space and all these things. And I always thought it was because they were exploring their consciousness. They were astral traveling. They were getting out of body. They didn't have spaceships, I don't think, back in Greece and fucking Mesopotamia and stuff. But these stories are numerologically revealing the mathematics of the moon, the sun, and the stars, the earth, the moon, and the sun, basically. It's its relationship to each other. Now, I dare any of you to get this book and pick any of this apart. I think I've went over this book twice now, and see if you can find that any of this would be a coincidence. Because there is no way any of this is a coincidence. Not only that, new information in this book doesn't just reveal things about the flower of life, but also reveals some things in this book about the relationship to the Sphinx and the pyramids. We're always finding something new about that. But I think the biggest thing that this book showed me is that whoever created our text, that basically everything is based off of, all of a lot of bad things too, you know, that people that just study the letter, you know, the religious people, super religious, are missing out on some of the most beautiful stuff because they don't ask questions. I mean, all of these stories, not just the Bible, but all of the stories, I think purposefully have characters and purposefully contradict each other so that you will ask questions. So that if you care enough to find the truth, you'll keep digging. And if you don't, then you're just going to be like, well, I got other things to worry about. Cool story. I guess I'll believe it. I guess I'll be saved or whatever and hope I don't burn in hell. And that's where you stop. But man, this is amazing. I don't know how long you worked on this book. I don't know how long this book, I don't know. Like, there's no way. I thought about this too. Could you do that? There's no way he could have done this with AI, because people are writing books with AI now too, right? No way. No, he could have spell checked it with AI maybe. But it doesn't just go into the stories, also architecture, also paintings, all of the same stuff that we think are ancient gods and aliens and all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm not saying they're not, okay? But there is a mathematical pattern in here that starts to make sense. And it really validates some of the stuff that I have taken from Hermetics, right? Because Hermetics is just the study of, like I told you guys, it starts out with the 4 elements and theurgy, which is all of the operations under the moon. This is the earliest mystery teachings that we have that go back to like Greek, or I guess it's the Ptolemaic period, you know, where the Greek and Egyptian stuff was counted together. And then it goes back even further as you get into the operations of the sun, which is alchemy, right? So this process of under the moon, doing your operations, that's all magic is the outer order. Like, you could say, well, I'm a magician, but even if being a magician, you're not like, it's still awesome. You still have to work this process and understanding, but it's still the operations under the moon. Don't take that literally like under the moon, but there's some literalness to it. And then alchemy, which goes back even further. And then the third stage of the mysteries, which is astronomy, astrology, or the stars. So you have the moon, the sun, and the stars. But in here, in Jason's book, he shows you, and he goes back to the cuneiform texts all the way to the Bible and reveals a pattern or a fingerprint that has the mathematics of the earth, the moon, and the sun, and how it works together, and the stars too. And it's amazing. So if just knowing that, it makes you wonder one thing. How does that happen? Now, we don't live that long, right? We don't, like, there's 8 billion people on the planet right now? 100 years ago, they were all dead. So we recycle and die so much here. How does something not only last thousands and thousands of years, a storyline with the same plot, different characters, each religion, different gods, different names for things, all kinds of stuff, but each cycle, this story not only tells the same story and reveals the same plots, you know, the astronomical plots, the alchemy plots, the elemental plots. It does all this stuff. But also, if you dig deep enough, Jason shows you that it has a numerical code to it. Now, there's only 2 things that I can think that would cause that. Okay. One, my most, I guess you could say, the thing that I feel is the most probable is it's already inside of us. That we've forgotten the truth so much. Like, we forgot who we are and where we came from. Our amnesic state is so deep in this life that only through our artwork and the things that we express with our feelings, such as music, art, religion, and this is what I think Manly P. Hall believed too. A lot of the liberal arts, things like that, a pattern starts to come out. And this pattern is like deja vu. It's something not only that comes out of us, but it helps us to remember. And this is why all of our stories have these same patterns in it, and it's lasted throughout time. And even Manly P. Hall said that in his book. It's really remarkable how all of this stuff lasted through all these thousands and thousands of years and times and things like that. Could be. It could just be us remembering, and this fucking like fractal pattern comes out in all of our stories and it tells the same thing. Okay? Or someone made sure that the stories, I don't know how the hell they did it. How can someone write such stories with gods and different characters and different plots and all these different religions and still have the same fingerprint patterns and side of this stuff and have 5 to 6 more different revelations inside the stories? How does that happen? Unless something of a higher intelligence, far more intelligent than us, wrote each one of these or guided someone to write these. Right? Which could be the same thing as what I was saying before. Now, you're not going to understand what I'm talking about at all unless you get this book. I think, I don't know if it's available on Kindle yet. But I guess if I'm going to like narrow this down, I'm going to say that no one's revealed what Jason's revealed. You probably will see within the next year or two all kinds of TV shows and people talking about stuff and things about how the earth and the moon and the sun and all this stuff shows this stuff. That's just marketing. People hop on. If you wrote a book or made a product that revealed something like that, there would be so many people hopping on your stuff too, you wouldn't be able to keep up with it. But it doesn't matter. Like, in my opinion, what Jason shows us here is amazing. I always knew there was something about that dude. There's some things that I want to leave as a mystery so that you will check it out for yourself, and then we can talk about it for sure. I will tell you that the pattern that's in here, there is no doubt that it's real. This pattern that he found, which makes me go back to what we were talking about before. What is the beast? Think about that for a second. If we're not to be a study of the letter, then what really is the beast? The person, so this calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is 666. 6 times 6 times 6 is 216. 2 plus 1. What is this? Yeah, 2 plus 1 plus 6 is 9. All these things come out to be 9. In gematria, we know that. All these numbers come out to be 9. Here's the fucking crazy part. They show the mathematics. If you don't, like, if you're a flat earther and you believe space is fake and all this other stuff, then this ain't for you, right? But, okay, everything in nature is a sphere except this place. I get it. Bye, okay? But this not only shows the correlation between all these things, but all of these numbers come out to 9. So, this mystery that's been hidden, who hid it? Was it on purpose? That's another question we got to ask. Like, why? Why is it hidden? Why couldn't someone just come out and say, hey, you live in this place. This is the distance between these things. All of these things are going to affect you in your life and this planet in a certain way. Why couldn't they just say that? There is a process of birth, death, and resurrection. Everything in nature is born, dies, and is born again. You're a part of that. Why hide it underneath all of this stuff? All of these different stories. I got a feeling as we dig into this stuff even more. And now I know I told you guys I would talk a little bit more about like ancient history and things like that. But I got a feeling that this stuff is not just going to reveal, which we already know it reveals the astrological correspondences. Now we know it has the geometrical and numerological correspondences. That gives us at least 4 more revelations inside here. Think about that. 7 different stories inside all of these stories, and they're all true. Maybe maybe whoever did this, they know our brains couldn't comprehend it. Or maybe the whole thing, if you want to get conspiratorial about it, was constructed to control you. But even if they did that, well, why would they leave pieces of the puzzle there so we could find the truth? It doesn't. It's really cool. It is. But it doesn't quite make sense to me yet. You know? Now, I'm not here to, I'm only here to like express myself and explore consciousness with you guys. I'm not here to validate what your beliefs are. But I would ask you, if you're a person that wants to like know the truth, not just tell it. If you're a person that like really wants to find the truth as deep as you can. I've never said this before, but you must get this book. Because it's going to like all kinds of shit is going to unlock in your head, man. All right. I don't know what else to say about it. Maybe I'll wait a little bit longer and we can go through it together. I don't know. There's no way I could do like the audio version of this book because there's so much math in it that I can't. You know, I can't. But it is amazing, man. It really is. I'm thinking the next thing that's going to be revealed is the biology. You remember the book we did, The Occult Anatomy of Man? The next thing that's revealed is going to be even more biological stuff. So we've got astronomy or astrology, biology, numerology, geometry. That's 4. What are the other 3? Metaphor, I guess, could be 1. Mythology. I mean, even in this stuff, did you know, like, when you get down to it, when you realize what the ark is, it's amazing, man. It really is. Life is freaking awesome. People there's 2 ways to look at this, right? You could look at this as like, oh, it's definitely a programmable matrix prison. Well, I mean, technically, your body's a prison. That's why you feel crazy all the time, you know? But consciousness has to experience stuff, dude. Like it wants to experience things. Like consciousness wants to make out with another person. It wants to eat a steak. And no, I don't think this is the Matrix where you got to be stupid in order to enjoy a steak. I'm not a red pill guy, even though I like listening to some of that stuff. But this also kind of shows too that some of the stuff that the Masons knew about circling the square and all these other things were big time. I know what you're thinking. You're like, yeah, I've heard this already. You got to get into this book because it doesn't just reveal like what I'm doing. Like it's not really vague about it. It's so specific that if anyone was to deny this, I think that you would just be one stubborn ass person. Matter of fact, I'll put out a challenge right now. If you read this book from front to back, cover to cover, and you find that because I know what era we're in. Find some conspiracy that how it's all wrong, because that's what the era we're in, right? We're still trying to get out of this victim mentality. Maybe it'll take another 1,000 years. I don't know. But find some conspiracy to where I'm wrong about this. I challenge you. Because I pick this apart, man. Like, I do that a lot. I overanalyze to like crazy. I mean, I'm here in the shack by myself. What the hell else am I going to do? And I'm trying to find flaws in the math, or find flaws in how this could be a coincidence, or find something. And it's just too damn perfect. Nothing's being changed or moved around or made to be perfect or any of that stuff. It's just not. He did his homework on this, man, big time. Jason Quitt, he doesn't even know I'm doing this. He doesn't know I'm talking about it. I'm not here for a marketing reason. I have no other agenda, but to me, this is just as big as when you have your first out-of-body experience. OBE, not astral travel, lucid dream. I think I had an out-of-body experience. When you have that real OBE, okay, this book is just as revealing as that, in my opinion. And I'm so pissed that I rushed to get him on the show that I did not read this damn book and then get him on the show. Now, with that being said, there are a few things in here, because he does push the limits in here, like when it comes to patterns and stories. He definitely shows you the patterns in all of these stories, this numerological pattern, not just through numerology, but also through geometry and angles and distance and things like that. There are some parts where he does question certain things that could mean more things that we need to look into. And that's pretty much all I can say about that. But this is proof to me, too, that there isn't, at the very least, there's an intelligence either inside of all of us as a collective consciousness, or something that's separate from us, working through us, through our need, our human need for story and something to have the answers. Because we do, as humans, right? Like, we have this natural thing that we have to know the answer to something, or we don't like not knowing. And we damn sure don't like to tell people, I don't know. We don't like saying that, because that doesn't make us look good, right? I wonder sometimes if whatever made these stories is like, well, I know human nature, so I'll leave this stuff in here messed up just enough so they'll dig deeper. I mean, if you read this book and you are still like an orthodox religious person, you're just a study of the letter at that point, I don't know what to say to you, man. I have no words for it. This gives me a good vibe, this book. It really does. I think our guest is trying to, let me see what's up with him, because he's in the middle of another interview. Other than that, I hope everybody's weekend was good. I was supposed to do a couple of interviews today. I had to go to the doctor. I love my doctor, but I hate sitting in those damn rooms. You know how when you go to the doctor and they put you in a room, so that you'll go to a doctor's office and they'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rooms or whatever, and they're like, go in here and wait, and then they shut the door. It feels like hell in there in me for some reason while I'm waiting. I've got some kind of weird phobia, man. Like, I went to the doctor today and they put me in, it's like stall number 2, shut the door, and you're just sitting in there waiting. When's going to be my turn? When's going to be my turn? Can't you just crack the door a little? I love my doctor. She's a great doctor, but it's like, don't get me wrong. I feel like you got my money, you put me in a stall, and you shut the door. That's what it feels like to me. I hate it. get Jason back on the show. I'll try. I'll definitely try. I so seek external. We all seek validation. It's human nature, brother. I need validation for closure, Joe. Yeah. Trump's uncle was in the hotel. I don't know about all that. Was the ark a capacitor? Possibly. Jason's books usually are mine. Yeah, they are. But this one's you gotta get it, man. You gotta get this one. Gates of the Anunnaki. Probably Astral Genesis, but at the very least, get this one. Get both if you can. Jason is probably an alien. Tell me I'm wrong next time you stand next to him. He's not an alien, man. He's just he's just a different dude with a different kind of vibe, I guess. Maybe he is an alien. I'll look into that for you. What's the book's name again? It's called Gates of the Anunnaki by Jason Quitt. Maybe there could be a book club in Discord chat. Yeah, we can make a book club if you guys want to do that. I can't get the freaking spam out of Discord, man. It's like spam universe in there. People are marketing entire web campaigns. Fucking Discord. I don't know if he's going to come on. If my guest doesn't come on, we'll get into a book or something tonight. I was going to speak with Aaron Voot, but we had to reschedule. Everybody's so busy. Let's see. Unplug the matrix. You're probably picking up on the negative energy. I ain't worried about negative energy. Sounds like something an Aries would say. I'll read it. Yeah, read it, dude. Like, you guys, we can't ban them? Can't we? But yeah, you should be able to ban them. I gave everybody permission to ban. The only reason why a lot of us left Discord is because they started telling us what we could and couldn't say. That's why we left. But when we left, I did everything I could to try to find another chat room, and then everybody loves Discord so much. So it's kind of one of those things. Yeah. So, what I'll be doing on the show is I want to dig deeper when it comes to this kind of stuff. I've thought about this because I did a poll and a lot of you guys are interested in like ancient history as well as I am. I just don't like attacking subjects that I can't explore in a practical way myself. Like I can explore psychedelics. I can explore consciousness through the out of body state. I can explore magical processes and Carl Jung, and I can explore these things, or understanding like Kundalini, and well, you can't really, I can explore and talk about those things, but the kind of intimate stuff you keep with your partner, right? But all of these conscious things that open up our consciousness, I can explore those. But when you go back into history, we can't time travel back in the past very well. But this is a way I can do this because I grew up Christian, Baptist, that is. I used to go into a Baptist church, and they would hammer stuff into us. And when I was a kid, my dad would, as a punishment, he would make me go into the room and listen to Alexander Scourby, which I love the guy's voice. And he kind of made me read the Bible, the King James bourbon version of the Bible, and listen to Alexander Scourby the whole time. That was my punishment after the ass whooping, or whatever. So I still have some of these up here in the ticker, but I know that they mean different things. So I can explore that. Like religions, it's going to piss some people off, but there's how do I say this? I'll just say it. One of the biggest networking fields in this whole area of everything that we do here on this side of the internet in the fringe is the Christian conspirators. They're the biggest, the hardest punchers, and the most stubborn. I dare all of them to read this book. All of them. Here we go. I got a link. Might have to take a break before we get our guest on. Maybe not. But let's see if we can get him on. Can you hear me? You there, brother?
Yes. What's up, Joe?
Mark Steeves, ladies and gentlemen. I'll get his video on here after the break. But it's good to hear you, bro. It's good to have you back on the show.
Yeah. I don't remember the last time I was on, but not in 2024, that's for sure. So it's good to be back. Glad to be here. Glad to see your face. How's it going, Joe? How's the show been so far?
It's great. I started doing video, which took away my whole shtick. My shtick was the voice in the night, right? You're supposed to guess what he looks like. And that worked for me for a while. Actually worked for me so well that I was able to travel a little bit. And I think as soon as I showed my ugly mug on video, it just fucked everything up, man. Honestly.
Oh. Why, are you getting stopped in public now that you've shown
Nah, it ain't like that. It just takes away the mystery. Do you remember when you listened to Art Bell like a long time ago and you heard his voice? And then the first time you saw his picture, you're like, that's him, really?
Well, yeah, I think when I first got into podcasting, that was kind of like I had to have make that decision at some point in the way, along the road there. Once you start liking a podcast, you start thinking like, what does this person look like? And then you finally see it and you're like, that is not what I expected at all.
Yeah, I did not expect that, man.
I can't remember the first time I heard your voice. It was probably on the Grimerica show or somewhere adjacent to that. And when I first met you, I definitely, I don't know, maybe I pictured you somehow. I was picturing a cowboy hat, to be honest, but I've never seen you in a cowboy hat.
I hadn't wore a cowboy hat but since I was like doing the rodeo thing back in the day, man.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I did pick up on something then.
Yeah.
Either way, video looks cool. The green screen looks cool. You got the live chat in there, and you got the live number. I'd love to hear a caller call in. I'd love to.
Yeah, we'll open up the phone. Listen, man, have you had Jason Quitt on your show about his new book, Gates of the Anunnaki?
I think I meant to.
God, you got to get him on.
I meant to reach out to him. You know what's funny? I meant to reach out to him, but for whatever reason, his name, I forgot it. And I had a great conversation with James True because I had mistaken Quitt for True.
You mentioned, oh yeah. They're like two different people too, but yeah,
very different. No, very different people for sure. But I just, for whatever reason, I know they have two different first names as well, but it's like, for whatever reason, my dyslexia like confused those two people. And I had a good conversation with James True, but I was earnestly, I meant to reach out to Quitt. I don't.
Well, we can talk about this when we get back. I'll open up the phone lines too. I'm so excited about this book, man. Like when you remember when Santos Bonacci first started revealing like the astrological mysteries of the Bible, and then they went back and everybody's like, okay, it's kind of a coincidence. It's kind of a coincidence. It does look pretty solid, And then I guess what's his name? Our buddy that's doing it now. What's his name that's doing this stuff now all the time?
Astrotheology?
Yeah, what's his name?
A couple people. I mean, Micah Dank is one.
That's it. Yeah. So he's doing it hard now, doing kind of the same thing. But Jason takes this to a whole nother level, man. Like this thing has a real, like all the stories have a real, I would say a hermetic and mathematical, geometrical, numerological footprint, like a perfect print that shows that I don't even know how to explain it. Okay. So it shows, number one, all of the distances between the moon, the earth, and the sun and all the stuff, exactly how they are. This stuff is the mathematical equations for these things. Go all the way back to the cuneiform texts. They're buried inside the mythologies in a hidden numerological system that we know as gematria, even Akbeaker too. There's other ways to look into it. But the same thing is also revealed in all of the statues that they put up, all of the architecture, all of the freaking pictures, all the way into the Greek and Roman times, all the way back to the Babylonian and Mesopotamian times, right? Like
is this kind of like a comprehensive framework to understand kind of like this crypto culture that's behind a lot of what we considered like a cult, high politic ritual?
No, it's not really. Well, no. Yeah, like the ritual side of it would be like we're ritualizing a very deep truth almost is what we're doing. But this truth that it's being shown is like DNA. It's like the DNA of creation inside mythological stories that we've turned into religions. It's very strange. It's hard to explain it.
Yeah, like the archetypical mythopoeticism kind of that we see. Okay.
Yeah, like, so if you see my website, it tells a story, right? But behind the story is hypertext, right? Behind the story is HTML and CSS. And these codes are showing they're building the story.
So he's kind of taking like an analytical approach and kind of deprogramming it.
Yeah, I mean, like it's kind of like if you were to see the code behind the website of religion, that's what he's showing.
Okay. Huh. Yeah, I think the Ashra theology stuff is really compelling when they start to compare it to not just, the Judeo-Christian framework, but, other cultures outside of the Western civilization, because that's where I think it becomes truly universal. And you see these like archetypes that are, I don't know, maybe part of this bigger story that we're all trying to figure out.
Right on. Yeah. All right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm with you on that. We're going to take a break. I'm going to get Mark's video in here, which means I'm going to have to do a lot of technical stuff really fast during the break. And then we'll continue this conversation. We'll also open up the phone lines too. If you guys want to jump in on the conversation, we'd love to have you, especially if you've read the book. If you've read the book, I'm not saying don't call in if you haven't, but if you've read the book, for sure, like call in too.
The dead increase their invisible honey.
Let me grab your video here, dude.
Woke up with the conviction I could change things. Every dream's a variation on the same theme. In the machine where blood money remains king, the gluttonous hold court and lick their plate clean. A songbird in the cage sings to usher in a new dawn and the promise that the day brings. First things first, fire up the ship. Equipped with the intravenous dark roll strip. My skull's thick, I learned to turn lead to gold bricks with skills to pay the phone bill and keep the stove lit. And roll with the brick roads, twist quick to snatch Caiaphas off his pulpit where lost souls drift. Something tapped the glass in my fishbowl, and for a moment I could see it clear as crystal. We're inching toward the edge, check your head. Smell the coffee grinds, put the savior complex to bed. Woke up with the conviction I could change things. Every dream's a variation on the same theme. In the machine where blood money remains king, the gluttonous hold court and lick their plate clean.
Finally being processed, they made me adjust to modern times. I'm cured of fantasy obsession, paranoid delusions, I master words.
Blind man, lost man, dying on the cross man, revolutionary man, self-righteous man, pointing fingers at the next man, madman, running from an agent with a gun and badge somewhere in the Badlands. Sacred hands shape the world laid to waste. Tomorrow sacrifice for today's paper chase. There's flies on a dry wall.
There was a sudden jolt and our submarine crashed on the seafloor. We were in total darkness.
That's Dr. Dejana Figueroa, a marine biologist and STEM teacher, talking about a deep sea dive she'll never forget.
It's funny, when I was a kid, I was afraid of the ocean, and there I was, 2 miles below the surface. But as a scientist, you prepare for that. Using our training and a little creativity, we fixed the sub and finished our experiments. The dive was just too important. Every dive gives us glimpses at things few people ever get to see. Glowing creatures, fiery undersea volcanoes. When we got back to the surface, I kissed the ground and called my mom, of course. But you know what? I wouldn't trade that dive for anything.
Dr. Figueroa uses her passion for STEM to discover new things and make the world a better place. She can STEM, so can you. Check out She Can STEM for more stories and inspiration. A message from the Ad Council.
Have you ever wondered, what do the stars say for me? Or, will the next month or the next year be more favorable? How about, are our two signs compatible? Each month, at the new moon, you can ask these questions live with me, your astrologer psychic, Mary DeCina, along with host of Lighting the Void, Joe Root. Join us at the new moon for Cosmic Conditions. We look forward to working with your energy.
Every new moon at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on Fringe FM.
Stay tuned for broadcasting in the English language.
Bumper stickers are a fun side hustle with low-cost investment that has built-in advertising to attract local customers in parking lots, rallies, gatherings, conventions, venues, and more. You could potentially sell these bumper stickers on consignment to local businesses, tattoo parlors, head shops, or any other independently owned store that might gear toward the Fringe. Bumper stickers are great gift-giving ideas for friends and family. Also, a way to wake up your fellow travelers on the path without having to waste energy in tiresome debates. No car? No problem. Bumper stickers will stick to just about anything with a semi-smooth surface. Go to www.justbsme.com and get your bumper stickers today.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you're interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm, or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of The Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
This is Cortana from Shift Happens, telling you to pour a glass and park your ass, because you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Shifthead.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Mark.
I'm here. I'm sharing the number with my Telegram.
Mark Steeves is here with us, you guys. Sorry about the silence. I had like 9 things going on trying to get the video going too. I did it all on the fly. That's why this show is live here. I changed the picture, changed what I was grabbing, changed all the text, brought Mark in. Mark is in the shack with us now. Mark Steeves, host of My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast, also the big guy over at Alt Media United, and co-producer, I guess I only say of Tinfoil Hat, and maybe producer, booker, whatever they call you.
Booker, yeah, they that's a generous producer. Generous. I'm a booker, but I do now produce a podcast for Danny Polishuk. So if folks want to see me on another live call-in show every week, I'm kind of on the Low Value Mail show, which is live on YouTube every Monday.
Low Value Mail. That's the name of it.
Yep. It's a play on words, but it's spelled M-A-I-L.
That's funny.
Yes.
That's hilarious.
Danny's very funny, and he gets some really interesting guests on, and the whole show is live, and you can call in and ask the guests questions yourself. So similar to this, which I hope people call in and ask us questions. Not that I expect people to have much to ask me unless they're familiar with my previous research and whatnot. We've talked a bit on this show before, so I'm sure your longtime listeners may remember.
Well, you and I we think a lot. We do a lot of, we there's a lot of the stuff that we do is the same, I think. Right. Yeah, our podcasts are different, but as far as like what we do in the world is a lot of the same stuff. Now, with that being said, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. I've already done my rant. Okay. So as a podcaster, I'll just tell you, like, I'm not here to be everybody's buddy. Okay. But I don't want to be an asshole either. But sometimes I can be. All right. But I don't like, there's some mentalities that are going on in these communities that I feel like are stifling us. Like, I feel like we could be way light years ahead of where we should be when it comes to understanding things like the scary word of the occult, or looking beneath the religion, or exploring consciousness practically, right? These three things are still, to me, so misunderstood. Like, I've got people, just because I brought up the name Aleister Crowley, which, by the way, I think is, just in case anybody really wants to know what I think about the guy, I've never talked to him. I don't know him. Okay. But I've read his books. And to me, he's like one of those brilliant dirt bags. That's it. I mean, he's a brilliant dirt bag. Just like if you read Hitler's Mein Kampf, it seems to be brilliant, but the guy turned out to be a dirt bag. You know? Now, I'm only saying that based on his books. Like, I don't know the guy. I didn't spend time with him. That'd be like me calling you a dirtbag based on 4 or 5 books I read by you, you know, and saying, you know what, you're a dirtbag. You're a shill. You're a government spy, you know, all this other stuff because you got an opinion on some guy's text. That and the flat earthers and a couple other people just driving me up the fucking wall, honestly. I'm not going to lie to you. They just do. They're holding. At this point, I don't give a shit if the earth is flat or not. Just like, even if it is, this whole thing is stopping us, in my opinion, you know. Like, I don't have any weed to smoke right now. I should smoke more weed, I think.
That might help. So in a way, it might belay your real issue, but I don't know, man. I honestly, you know, I'm not going to have anything constructive to say in terms of, like, you know, the people that I have that grind my gears, you know. But hey, that's 'tis life, you know. Like, we're not gonna get along with everybody, and I think if you're in the audience and you see, like, let's say, you know, one podcast call out another, right? Like, Joe, you're not naming names. I'm not naming names. We don't need to do that kind of stuff. But when you see that kind of stuff happening, yeah, it's annoying. And, you know, if that's the type of thing that entertains you, good for you. But personally, I think it's an indicator of a low standard or low bar for what type of, I don't know, content this person is engaging with, you know. So I steer clear of that. And, you know, it's inevitable. You can never judge somebody by first impression. You know, sometimes people reveal their true colors and so on and so forth. But
that's a fact.
I was telling you on the phone earlier, with the audience, a lot of times the most negative comments come from people who are actually your biggest fans. They feel so dedicated to, you know, their fanship that they, you know, maybe have a disagreement and they take it out on you disproportionately to how they actually feel about the show. So that's the sense I get sometimes, you know, and I've experienced that before, where I'm overcritical because I'm too close to something, or I've become, you know, a fan. I've binged a certain podcast, and then one little thing upsets me, and then I've been there. Oh yeah, I've been there. I mean, I've had a podcast for 4 years, but I've listened to podcasts for 8 years probably. So, you know, there's one podcast in particular that I liked when I was younger that I slowly started to realize, you know, they were kind of corporate. Like, they weren't really like, and this is like billed as a conspiracy show. Oh, we talk about the stuff they don't want you to know about, right? This is I'm not going to say the name of the podcast explicitly, but I kind of just did for people who could read between the lines. but that was kind of the notion I got over time. It's like, oh yeah, these guys kind of have like a, I don't know, maybe like a dishonest incentive. It's not that they're being dishonest, it's that their incentive to keep this job going is kind of dishonest in nature, right? So there's a little bit of that going on in the world, but I think far too often you see people take that as a allegation when they disagree with somebody's perspective, right?
Yeah.
They'll say, oh, this person's controlled, this person's deceiving. And I think there are instances where, yeah, you have a podcast that's owned and operated by a corporation. Yeah, that might be the case. But with, something like me where, I just have my computer, my mixer, and my microphone that I paid for, and like the hosting account that I pay for to put the podcast out, like, that's all stuff that I'm paying for independently. I don't really have an incentive to, stick to anyone's agenda other than my own.
I don't either. Like Dennis Koch, and is one of my favorite guys that's been following this. He's in the chat too. Bought this microphone, right? One of the first coolest things I ever got was this boom, and this microphone was from him. And I never thought for a minute that Dennis was a guy that I would have to agree with all the time. But he is very opinionated, and he stands strong about certain things. Certain things piss him off, and that I can respect, right? But it's like he's also, among some of the listeners, he's also like, I don't even know how to explain it. There's a certain frame of mind where people are just like intelligent enough to be open-minded, but not stupid, like open-minded, but not like naive, gullible, stupid, but open-minded, still have some firm beliefs. It's hard to explain. Independent, I guess, like not so influenced all the time. And now, dude, like wasn't really talking about all the other podcasters per se, but what I'm thinking, I don't know what it is, but there's something that's trying to keep us stuck in this like not anti-Christian, but this kind of Christian conspiracy world. And if that doesn't work, then it's a flat earth thing. And then if that doesn't work, then the devil has made the earth flat. And I'm thinking, damn, like when's this mindset going to change? Maybe in 2064, maybe in 2044. Like we got to get past Blade Runner years before we start to realize that there's something deeper going on here. You know what I'm saying?
How many people are Christian because they've dedicated themselves to the church and the Bible? I would argue probably a small percentage compared to maybe the people who overcompensate for their lack of dedication by having strong opinions online.
Yeah.
We were talking about earlier off the air. There are several things that you're aware of from the Bible that contradict, common statements that you might hear someone, using the Bible's rhetoric to spew a certain opinion or perspective or worse, agenda. I think this is happening a lot in the conspiracy community. Kind of, I don't know, it reflects what I was just talking about with a guest on my podcast about how the indication that something, a movement, cultural sort of fashion is kind of coming to an end is when like the people who comprise it seem to be like anxiously kind of, I don't know, obsessed with dark things like the occult and symbolism. And I'm not here to bully Christians. I have a sort of neutral stance on it all.
No, you can't bully Christians, man.
It does seem like,
you can't.
Seem like they have become like particularly conspiratorial in ways that almost goes against some of the things that I thought were Christian, the whole idea of not judging, the whole idea of forgiveness and things like this, seem to be not taken into account. And there's this conservative superstition that's come around with a lot of, I don't know, what could be metaphysical subjects. And there's a dark path, there's a light path. I think we both can acknowledge that, right? But so often you have this very like overly zealous reactionary stance that's taken against anything that resembles mysticism or the occult. And
so yeah, that's what you're saying right there is what I'm talking about. Like, it just gets to an incredible level of anything outside the box is if you're not a shill, this, and it's not about me. I don't care. But I do have listeners. Take, for example, what started this whole video thing, Gareth, right, who he just got diagnosed with ALS, right? He's reaching the end of his life. He wants to know what's going to happen after he dies. He's afraid. He's reading books that were written by, I guess, people that have sort of a Christian conspiracy on top of another conspiracy on top of it's not really a Christian conspiracy. It's like an anti-Christian conspiracy, but we're still kind of focusing everything around the story of these characters, right? That represent something deeper than the characters themselves is what I'm saying. And here a guy is who's just like us, but not only is he reaching the end stages of his life, he's suffering. So he's afraid. This is the reason why I did the show, so we can explore consciousness to not only extend our understanding of these things to a bigger level, but to eliminate some of the fears once we do these things, to empower us, man, not to just keep harping on how much of this thing is a prison or it's a game or you're a manipulated puppet. And it's like,
it's not just Christianity. It's any religion that has a sort of dogmatic, cult-like tendency. Christianity is just used that way. The original Church of Jesus Christ is not meant to be used for that. Right?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Right. Like, that's kind of at least what some of my favorite guests that I've interviewed have kind of reflected. Right. I mean, I'm not pretending to know or be an expert on Christianity by any means. I was raised Catholic and kind of gravitated away from it and pursued just researching all sorts of things. Just in general.
Were you an altar boy, Mark?
No. I did do the CCD, kind of classes that you have to go through, and then you get confirmed in the church, and then after that you're pretty much free to go, show up if you want. You continue going to church if you want, but yeah, no, it never really interested me until recently. Now I've kind of come back to being more interested in trying to understand the history of religions, and I've always been interested in history, but yeah, I always had kind of a more childish view of religion, that it was like, it's just used to control us, man, which is true to a certain extent.
And people have used it to control us for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's so much more to it than that. And I think, spirituality is definitely a larger, broader topic than religion. Religion's one facet of it, maybe a physical embodiment or a cultural embodiment of our understanding of spirituality. So I think spirituality is something individualistic. It's for you to determine on your own, and when you have any religious figure telling you, to be afraid of one thing or to, denounce something or, worse, accuse and condemn people for something that you don't agree with. Like, that's where it takes a step. And you're seeing that with podcasting. I mean, there's millions of podcasts now at this point. So, it's to be expected. You're going to have the whole Lazy Susan menagerie spinning and spinning and spinning opinions and opinions and opinions, and some truth in there. But I think that, yeah, when it comes
there's a big untrusting vibe going on in every aspect of not just this friend, even Taylor Swift's new album came out. Have you heard any at all? Like, I'm not a Taylor Swift guy, but people are yapping about it, so I would listen to it. Like, this chick is revealing some dark stuff, man. All of this untrusting energy. Every time she got smashed up, she doesn't trust this thing. And this is the vibe, I guess, that I'm getting, is people. It's like, it's an instinct, okay? We either, as humans, we go for what we desire or we protect ourselves from pain. And there's more focus on protecting ourselves from pain and suffering than there is for us going for what we desire. I guess that's my biggest frustration. And all of the things that we do to do that, whether it's flat earth or demiurging gods or prison planet or NPCs or whatever the hell it is, because we don't trust nothing, you know?
Yeah, well,
I get it. I get it.
It's like a mental contagion, you know? It's like a parasite that
Fallout.
grows like Fallout.
Like Fallout.
I'm not familiar. I know the video game. I know what happens, I think. But I'm not
You don't trust anybody in Fallout. Yeah. You just don't. It's been number one on Amazon right now for like, I don't know how long, just the show. They came out with the show. It's been number one on Amazon. Yeah. They made a show for the game.
Well, everything is like post-apocalyptic now. It seems like, you know, you have this Civil War movie that's coming out, and yeah, that's like, and even like, you know, not that I follow this, but it seems like fashions kind of hit that. I don't know, you know, like everything is in this post-apocalyptic, you know, so woke it's broke kind of mentality.
Yeah,
and,
that's a good phrase. So woke it's broke. It's the first time I heard that one, I think.
There's nothing behind it. It's completely devoid of any meaning. It's utter hypocrisy. It's divested of any value, and it's all from people who have some of the most privilege for the most part. I mean, there are exceptions, and there are people who are marginalized who have a reason to sympathize with these causes that the so liberal agenda espouses, but it's propped up by people who have nothing but hypocritical intentions and are just using this as a front to make more money and push more people into a state of, dependency on the state. Right. So, yeah, I think that's kind of the post-apocalyptic is just to like make people kind of lose any sense of connection to what was meaningful, family values, and so on and so forth. So, again, that's why I don't like to bully Christianity, because I think there are actual, you know, higher value type of concepts deep within.
Oh yeah,
religions.
It's a beautiful, it's a beautiful thing. It's not Christianity. It's not religion. I'm not here to bully anybody. I fucking hate bullies. Everybody knows me, knows that. But I'm not going to be bullied by somebody's fear or misunderstanding either. If you're wrong and I think you're wrong, I'm going to say I think you're wrong. You know, like that's it. You know, bullying somebody is kind of like forcing them to do and think what you want them to think, or just you beat the shit out of them or you punish them for it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about, like I said earlier, we've got. Even you have friends that are Christians, bro. Like I've got friends that are Christians that are Christian down to the core. Like they're not even arguing this stuff. They're spending their time in their life like spreading love and just trying to be an example for people and actually taking the teachings of Jesus and just trying to live that life. And that's not the people I'm talking about. I'm not even talking about the religion itself. It's the people that take stuff from that religion and pound you to the ground with it, you know, like that's a bully to me. Everywhere they go, they can't stand anything to be outside of it. Or they'll say things like, oh yeah, well, you like Aleister Crowley because you talked about him, so you must be you must like children or something like that. These people to me are pieces of shit. Sorry, but they are.
Yeah, there's a lot of judgment and a lot of, you know, I think with the darker aspects of cults and the occult, like you have real sick people involved with this stuff. So there's a reason for people to get upset. But yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of the seriousness out of it when you are just kind of
blowing everything out of context.
Well, and also, you know, taking very serious matters to a very irresponsible level, you know. you want to investigate real crimes, leave that to people who are professionals. And I hate saying that because we find that they're like covering stuff up all the time. A lot of cases. There's a lot of I'm sure good natured people in law enforcement, but a lot of stuff gets covered up. So who knows? I think when it comes to like the systematic stuff that's happening on a level outside of, any one person's control, those are things that represent like a societal evil that they're kind of being nursed by certain factors. And then there are these like lower order sort of ills and evils that are kind of under the domains of specific people. And those people should be brought to justice. And we're seeing, at least, some of that with the rap community with P. Diddy. And then, of course, they're saying he's like the Epstein of the rap community. So what does that mean? He's the fall guy, right? So, Epstein, right?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if we're going to compare him to Epstein, we didn't see much justice for the Epstein victims, right? So are we going to see any justice for the P. Diddy victims? I doubt it. Are we going to find out who's really doing stuff? The only person who seems to be concerned is 50 Cent, and or at least vocal about it. And he's, he's pretty funny. I like it. I don't know what his documentary that he's planning is going to be about. How like serious it's going to be, and if it's going to be like an actual like documentary, or it's just going to be like a hit piece or like some kind of like stylized recreation or something. I don't know what it's going to be, but it does seem like, right now, 2024, we've seen like a series of events that have kind of built upon themselves, and it
feels like a big truth's about to come out, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, that's why people are so distrusting right now, the way you described it, and maybe that anxiety that people feel is maybe behind some of those, just general like negative attitudes that you might perceive from certain people or comments or wherever this is coming from.
I get it, dude. I mean, I should have more empathy for people. I understand that. But, I should have more empathy for people that react in certain ways. But like, there's some things, dude, that when you reach a certain age, like, you should just have, in my mind, a certain maturity about things. And I'm not even talking about real maturity. I'm talking about just half-assed maturity, like half-assed maturity about it. You have to take stuff, if you want to like speak about truth and punch the ground about truth and, hold up your truth flag and do all this other stuff, you have to be able to speak your truth regardless of what people think. And you also have to be able to take things into context, man. Like, empathy is a part of taking things into context. I get that. You have to understand how everybody's feeling, how everybody thinks about things, the bigger picture as much as you can. I get all that. But, like, I think look, if I was to be conspiratorial with you, brother, I would say there was a dark force. Like, if I was to do exactly what they're doing, I would say there's a dark force inside the woke community trying to keep us held back from finding the truth, talking about beating us down the door with like I guess you could say Puritan Christianity and like probably ancient alien prison planet stuff. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can't leave out like the nonsensical scientific dogmatism, postmodernism. That's really what the left, that's their drumbeat. I mean, yeah, they're kind of interested in aliens and stuff, but a lot of those people are skeptical non-believers in anything that isn't, spelled out for you on Wikipedia. I mean, it's like, yeah. And that's atheism too, because like you don't see like an explanation for God on Wikipedia. And if it is, it's watered down a ton. But I think that all of it is representing something, sure, dark, but also maybe like the way
maybe it's a part of the truth process, right?
Well, it's almost like a cycle. Like you look at all the cycles of life, and it's, the nature of life is to eat life, right? So like, these people that represent this powerful force in culture are going to go away eventually, and something's going to replace them, right? So I think that might be a little bit of what people are sensing right now. It's like, and I just finished talking to Chris Knowles, you know that we did it. So some of these ideas might be, reflecting off of his ideas. So
he's got a good grasp on some of the darker, like the real darker aspects, in my opinion, of some of the things that happen, not just in religion, but paganism and all kinds of things. Like he kind of reveals I would say, how people can take things too seriously when it comes to what they believe, whether it's pagans, Christians, whatever, how the extents that they can go to, that gets pretty dark as they kind of worship things, right? And what they can do. He's pretty good at that. I give him that, Yeah.
Well, one thing is he doesn't pretend to know what's really going on. He kind of shows you the symbols and the clues, and you got to put it together, because who really knows the answers? We don't know. That's the nature of these kind of secret societies and these occult things. But one of the points that he made pretty clear is like nothing's hidden anymore, and I think that's part of the stress that people are under nowadays when it comes to the way they see the world. It's something that I talked about on my show a few episodes ago called ontological disillusionment, maybe is what I would coin the term as. So ontology is the study of like the world or how you see the world, or like, higher order thinking, right? And now we live in a country, at least, where, people have all these different very, very opposed ways of seeing the country that we live in, right? Some people think that the world is on fire for this reason, and another group of people think the world is on fire for this reason, right?
What do you think about that cat that set himself on fire? What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, no pun intended with the fire thing, but nobody's focused on putting the fire out, I guess is my point with that analogy. I think that situation is... and again, me and Chris Knowles just kind of talked about this, so I'll give you guys a little scoop on what my tomorrow episode is going to be about. Episode 400 of the My Family Things.
Nice, congratulations. Good plug. 400.
It's weird, and I think the fact that they're kind of trying to describe this guy as a conspiracy theorist is telling. Even though he didn't really have a clear political orientation. He was kind of just like anti-government, it seems. And what's interesting is he filed all these different lawsuits, some of them against like the Clintons, Mark Zuckerberg, Mark Cuban, all these different people. So
the guy that set himself on fire did.
Yeah. So I don't know if he's like supposed to represent something symbolically, but if anything, hey, they're setting a conspiracy theorist, or a conspiracy theorist is setting himself on fire. If that's meant to send a message, what is that?
That is hardcore, bro. Like all of the things that you would do to be an activist in your life, bro. Think about like if someone pushed your buttons, Mark, let's say, you put the weed down and someone really pushed your buttons and you were ready to wrestle again to that point. And then they pushed your buttons even more to where you're like, all right, okay, fuck it, it's war. Would you still set yourself on fire? Like that's a whole different kind of...
My buttons are pushed, Joe. Setting myself on fire is not going to do anything.
Exactly. That's what I said at the beginning of the show. I said, I don't understand.
The reason I do my podcast is because, it's better than setting myself on fire, right? I mean, anything setting yourself on fire, but to that point, like I take that same conviction into what I do with my podcast. Like my life might be burning around me, metaphorically speaking. That's me setting my life on fire for this podcasts, I guess. But things are fine. I'm doing well. I'm paying my bills. Send me one-time donation if you're worried about me. But I'm doing good. I don't want to give people the wrong impression. But
you sure have no shame in plugging yourself. That's for sure. I dig it.
Oh, not at all. But I do think that when it comes to like this guy in particular, he was more likely than not someone who's just kind of absorbing a lot of this mental or this conspiracy content, and it's informing either a mental illness that they got through the circumstance, through psychology, through their I don't know, genetics, although I don't tend to really believe in that kind of thing. I know some diseases can be passed down heretically, but I tend to not. I think it's more mimetic than genetic. But I don't know. It's just weird, I don't like to make like conclusions about.
Me neither.
Things
I don't think you know exactly there's no way in hell. I don't. I think you know exactly why he did it. It's just like
we're talking about a person's life here, right? So
it's extreme, man.
Yeah, it's very extreme, and I wonder, like, how much of that was possibly coerced, how much he was coerced into that situation by factors that might be hard to trace, we'll just say. So maybe it wasn't his agency alone acting in that moment, but either way, that represents to me like a very mentally ill person, someone who would do something like that. But then again, we've seen, certain types of cases where people are influenced by subtle forces that are hard to trace, right? So read between the lines there, folks, and determine.
What are you saying, Dennis? As a mental health advocate, he was no mystery to me. He had reasons, and he made it real. Dude, call in and tell me what you mean by that. Like, because, I understand. To me, I've been down I can only relate from my own experience. I've been down in places so freaking mentally straining that there was one time in my life I thought about killing myself. I had agoraphoria. I was having panic attacks every day, like every 3 a day, something, but still, like,
I think
why burn? Like, if you're going to burn yourself, you're going to suffer, that's one of the most horrible ways to die. So what kind of a statement are you really making? Right? Are you telling us, like, I'm just assuming here. I don't want even to, because I have no idea. I don't know this dude. But are you saying, yeah, I filed all these lawsuits. I've done everything I can to be an activist against these people, and I'm so pissed off, I'm just going to set myself on fire, because that's pretty much all we can do.
Let me explain something though for a second, because I think mental illness, oftentimes people take that the wrong way. Are we going to call her?
Yeah. I don't know who it is though.
Okay. Well, I think when it comes to mental illness, I think it's we tend to think that these crazy events come from a place without reason,
right?
And there's reason, and I think, oftentimes the people who are suffering from mental illness are tapping into a collective mental illness, that they are merely the protrusion of the symptom, right? So like it's affecting the collective, and they're like the I don't know. The correct term is falling away from me, but
sure,
it does seem like they represent something, a larger force than themselves. I think oftentimes people are frustrated when you say, "Oh, well, they were just mentally ill," right?
Yeah. That's not what I'm saying at all. Looks like
I know you're not saying that.
403 area code. You're on the air. Who are we speaking with?
It's me. It's Genevieve.
What's up, Jen?
Hey, I was just calling about this guy who burned himself.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could give us some more details, because it sounds terrible. But I had some thoughts on it. So.
Well, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, there's a very, very famous picture of a Buddhist monk who is protesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what he was protesting, but it was something to do with maybe it was the Vietnam War or
yeah.
Right, and so he set himself on fire, and it was one of those pictures I saw in the back of a book, and you know how you flip through things and you're not really paying attention, and it just stuck with me. It was just such a profound picture because this man was able to just be so peaceful. I didn't see what happened to this other guy, but maybe he was trying to emulate him, and he was protesting what was going on in our society.
Kind of like the first thing I thought, because I didn't know what happened until my dad called me and told me. The guy's name was Maxwell Azzarello of St. Augustine, Florida. Is that the guy's name? Yeah, he was protesting. So I mean,
he protesting, yeah.
Yeah.
So it is like the most profound. See something like that, you don't. He was just saying, this sucks, and I want you guys to all pay attention to it.
This is how this feels. It's worse than death.
Yeah. Yeah, and his death is significant in that we have to pay attention to. It is really weird out there right now. Like it is really weird, and I personally feel like I don't know what's up or down anymore. Like I used to think, I believe in God, and I want the world to be a happy place, and all that sort of thing. And I profoundly don't feel that anymore.
This is exactly so what me and Mark are talking about, or what I'm trying to converse with him about right now, is exactly the feeling that I'm getting from everybody right now, And
can I speak to that? Because I think in the face of that, you should be brave and you should bring courage. I hate to say love, because how could you love something so awful? But we need to take love and in the form of courage into these situations, whether it's through the way we interact with the media, or more importantly, the people around us. I didn't know about this story until an acquaintance at the gas station brought it up, only because they know that I do a podcast. And yeah, so it was interesting that I was presented with that information in that way. And now here we are talking about it. But I think, your reality is yours it's your realm, to mind, mind your own realm. That's kind of the protocol that I go by. And if something's not serving you, it's not unhealthy to avoid, especially media. I'm not saying don't be aware of what's going on, but mitigate, because if you're feeling this way, I would definitely recommend taking practice to connect with your higher self, with your origin, your source, so that you can feel rooted and safe in that allness that you are.
Well, for sure. But what this man did, if he had just jumped off a bridge or shot himself, we wouldn't have heard about it.
Right.
This guy's his call for help was very significant, because now everybody's going to talk about it. It's like that picture. You just can't put that picture ever. I can never forget that picture. Well, it's one of two pictures that really stuck out in my mind. The other one was where these Buddhist monks were chopping up these bodies that they were feeding to the vultures. And it was just such a profound picture, because you realize you were looking at human remains that were being chopped up. And it was very religious, but at the same time it was very because you know how you flip through a book and you're just not paying attention to what you're really looking at?
Maybe
and the same thing.
Maybe you got a point, all right? So I'm not saying I agree with what the guy did at all, but maybe you got a point. First of all, astrologically, we are in this Pluto stage that we haven't been in thousands of years, and things pretty crazy happen in this stage. Secondly, like the Vietnam War messed up people's trust in the government and everything so bad that they felt exactly, and we're not in a Vietnam War. We're in a war of the mind right now where there's so much dark stuff going on and so much mental blobbly, nobody knows reality, and we can't even get to the freaking hardcore truths because there are things like child traffickers. We know these facts, but instead, my point is we're focused on flat Earth. We're all over the place.
Just because everybody's lost their faith in all the good things that, like Hollywood, has completely broken people's faith in them.
Yeah, that's true.
You just don't know who to believe anymore. You just you look at, like I just said, I don't trust Taylor Swift because I don't know if she's not being paid by some subversive creeps out there who want to use her for their own means and manipulate people. And I think that's what everybody's feeling right now, is so manipulated. We've just come out of COVID, and we've felt hugely. I'm so angry about COVID that I just don't know what to do with myself. I mean, I can't talk to people about it because
we can't either.
You just feel like there's one person who you can't say nothing, right? So now you can't talk about it. You can't explain your truth to people, and we're finding there's a hard backlash now back to Christianity that wasn't there 10 years ago. People are like, no, like Ryan Gosling's left Hollywood to go and be Christian, and there's quite a few of them actually who profess their Christian roots.
The new Blade Runner did. I don't keep up with pop culture as well as other people do. That's crazy.
I don't mean to be contrarian to what you're saying, but I found that, as much as what you're saying is true, it's become easier in some ways to make good connections with people that I do agree with. And I don't know if it's, if it's...
For sure. But, I think most people feel like if you find people that you agree with on this kind of stuff, for every one person you find that you can really talk to about it, like I did this other day with this lady, and we were just like, can you believe all the crap that's gone down? And Canada, it's awful. It's just, this country is, I'm not going to say, but I just can't believe all this stuff, that we've gone through it, and just like, it just keeps coming at you, and you're like,
well, Mark's got a point, though. Like, I trust Mark. Mark trusts me. We kind of hang out with each other when we can. I trust you, Genevieve.
Well, I think in this community, you can really sort of hang your hair out and say, okay, I really think this is how I see it. And it's sort of but the cultural blaming and the weird stuff that came down, the way I felt like I really understood what fascism was about in Canada.
I bet
the shaming that went on, like if you didn't wear your mask and all that stuff. I don't want to go back to that, but I think
they had it a lot worse than we did, bro. Let's just be honest. Like, Canada did have it pretty rough.
We just booked the Danger Cats on Tinfoil Hat. I'm a friend of Sam Walker. I've been a fan of his comedy for a while, and they've been just like canceled, threatened.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
All for making jokes, and it's ridiculous. I mean, comedy. That's one.
I think it's really important to have people like you guys out there, absolutely speaking your truth, because there's people who need to hear that truth as well, for sure. Because there's so many people who you just don't hear it on your mainstream media anymore. Like, it's not out there. No. Or it's forgotten about, and we're talking about other stuff now. But this man who I just will go back to this, and then I'll let you guys go.
Sure.
This man who committed suicide, the way he did it, it was to get attention, and it was because I think we are living in these times that it's like, hey, pay attention, wake up, because this is weird. It's weird. I really feel like it's weird. I never felt like that ever when I was growing up. I never felt like it when I was in my 20s. Life was good, but now I feel like we're with our food. all the stuff that's coming down with the food things that, like you don't have decent food to eat anymore because you're being told all the stuff about Roundup Ready crops and how they're affecting people's gut biomes. I think this stuff is real. People aren't getting enough good food to eat, and I just don't understand the world agenda anymore.
Maybe we are finding out the truth of the blue pill, just how blissful ignorance is, Like, yeah, we're dying like cattle, but you know what? We were happier, right? Like, we're freaking out now, man,
There's so many people out there who are just, like, they're lost. And I feel like I'm lost. And, I just can't even, like, honestly, at one point I was like, I can't even think about going to heaven anymore because I wouldn't be a good candidate for heaven. I would be saying all the wrong things. So I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to be going down and looking in the dark places for friends down there. But it just felt like that. Now I don't know what to think anymore. But I'll let you guys go, and thanks for listening to me because I just had to share that about that monk.
Sure, yeah. I needed another perspective is good. I get it,
Okay. Well, have a good night, guys. I'll keep listening. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. But she's got some solid points, bro, actually.
My grandparents are from Canada.
Dude, they got the sore end of all that, of every part of what happened.
They left. My grandparents left. I think they saw the writing on the wall in 1940. So, sounds like Genevieve could take a nice walk outside and take a deep breath and relax.
Like
the world's not ending,
This is what happens when we don't, like, first and foremost, like, this country, JFK was right. Like, this country was built by us, and it's supposed to be supported and stayed and made by us. When we sit back and let everybody tell us how things are all the time, this is what happens.
On one note, one interesting note that Genevieve brought up about the guy in Vietnam, it is kind of interesting that now we're seeing this, happen twice now just this year, right, with the self-immolation. And the conspiracy theorist term was kind of popularized in that same period around the Vietnam War, around the time JFK was assassinated, right? This conspiracy theorist term was weaponized, and now we see, actual people who identify as conspiracy theorists being maybe possibly weaponized in some form or fashion, or at least just exploited in the sense that, this person, had a cause to their death. I don't know that it's necessarily appropriate to share it on the media because I think it encourages more people to do that. And I think there are better ways to spread a positive message. But I understand, Genevieve's sentiment with it was, taken to an extreme because he had an extreme cause. But at the same time, I have problems with thinking that way. If you want to address the problems going on in America, there are ways to do that. In my opinion, the self-immolation, that represents the same thing that we saw with Black Lives Matter, where they burned down neighborhoods in the name of racial freedom. I don't know how that makes sense. Or they burned down, businesses, small businesses in the name of racial equality.
Well, did this guy hurt anybody else but himself?
No, but at the same time, it's like,
because I agree with you what you're saying about that, because that was stupid.
His conspiracy notions were vague and not really like, it was just kind of like, if that stuff was part of his life, I think it had consumed him and taken him to a dark level. And that's not necessarily the inevitability with this stuff. I think in my life, it's offered a perspective that's been tremendously valuable, not just with my podcast, but now especially, my podcast name is kind of less meaningful because a lot of my family I've come around to thinking, hey, yeah, maybe Mark was right about certain things, because clearly this country we're in is nuts, So that's concerning in some ways. I prefer to be the black sheep, in some sense, and go back to the way it was in maybe 10 years ago. But hey, my whole life has been this way, and our lives, and most people listening, all these things happen in stages. And I think really what's going on is the elites, whoever's maybe managing what events get exposed in what way and things like that. I think they game these cycles ahead of time. They know the sort of theme. They don't know the plot. They don't know the maybe the exact climax of how things are going to go down, but they know the sort of theme and the setting and that kind of thing. So they're able to almost make some sort of calculation of what to do based on, going back to what we first started talking about when I jumped on, maybe this astrotheological mythopoetic archetype that we're all connected to through our consciousness. I know that sounds like $1 million idea or something, but when it comes to this Max guy, you have his name. The word Max means great, right? Maxwell, and well implies water, and then Azarello. I think most people have kind of picked up on the similarity to the angel of death, Azrael, right? So
maybe he's a symbol of a transformation. That death is like anytime in our lives when we've all hit rock bottom in our lives, and I mean at least once. A lot of us have experienced it, whether it's mentally, financially, or just all across the board. But imagine hitting, like, on top of that, you've hit rock bottom when it comes to self-empowerment. Like, you get to this place of untrusting and paranoia, and I wouldn't even say paranoia. That's a bad word. Just untrusting and negativity and suffering so bad where you're like, not only am I going to kill myself and to make a statement because I have absolutely no power to do anything else, but I'm just going to show people exactly how I feel when I do it. If you get that, that is a symbol of Scorpio, of death and transformation, but we've all been through it, man. You have to go through it, and all of us will physically die and do the same thing.
But
so
most
I mean,
people are not. I'm with you, but most people are not looking at it in
like that deep
terms. Yeah. Their fear, it strikes fear in their heart, And one point I'm noticing in the live chat, New England Dirt Roadie, shout out to fellow New Englander.
Dirt Roadie, yeah, he's cool.
They said there are Indian farmers who self-immolate all the time in protest. I'd love if you could clarify. I think he means Indian as in India, but I'd wonder why that's happening there. Maybe
really, I didn't know that. Really?
And this is the point. Like this kind of thing, you to counter again. Not that I disagree with Genevieve. I think she had a good point overall, but.
Yeah.
But it's just like they're showing us this story. Obviously, it's happening in a place where there's already news cameras, right? That's probably why he picked it, because he knew the press is going to be at the Trump trial, right? This happened right outside the courthouse where this is taking place. It also happened right next to where they had a statue of Medusa holding a sword and a severed head.
No shit.
Look at the symbolic nature of all this stuff. Yeah, this will all be in my podcast I just recorded.
Why do you think that happens, man? Do you think that's like inherent in the, like, or is it just a coincidence?
No, it's never just a coincidence. It's mystical toponymy. It's synchromysticism. It's set and setting. It's ritual. It's
right.
These things taking place in a way that are so subtle. You really need to be able to sit back and look at it after it's taken place to understand it, which is kind of like the magic of it, and I think that's kind of what these groups game, what I was talking about before.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Cycles, and they're setting the setting, setting the setting, set, who's set, right? who's Seth, right? Like, I think it's all connected, and anyways, not to get too crazy with the words, but I think
I don't know if it's a big like conspiracy, or if it's like if it happened because it's in our nature, or if it happened because the guy's just suffering so bad from all this that he thought that was his only way to make a point, you know?
I would lean towards what you just said in your latter statement there, because I honestly, like, not that I'm trying to like put a pin in someone's balloon here, but it doesn't seem to me like we should make this guy out to be some kind of like hero who had a voice. Like, it seems to me like, if anything, he was kind of possibly coerced subtly into doing it.
Yeah, I do. Honestly, I do. No matter how beautiful it may be to a Buddhist monk or whatever, like, I'm with you on that. I have a hard time, and that's what I was saying at the beginning of the show, looking at it like you're a hero in any kind of way.
I don't think of that Buddhist monk burning himself as beautiful. Millions of people were dying in his home country. You know, I mean, that's suffering, it's anguish. That. And also, again, like, we don't know that wasn't staged back then. We have all these cameras. Those camera guys that were in Vietnam, they were with the military. They were, on military detail, a lot of them. So, are we going to take that?
If you think about it, though, this is where we get got. This is where we get got. Like, when people say, you got, I think as a society, this is how we get got, because they keep us focused on red and blue, to the point where we're always looking for conspiracies. We're always glued to the TV. We're always glued to pop culture. And the only thing that we can do, like, if we really took what the mysteries taught us to change all this, is we would turn the fucking TV off, and we would go outside, like you're saying. We would work our plant and our own garden, even though the outside world is affecting it. Yes, it is. But the only way that we are going to change it is from the inside out, right? Like, yourself, your family, your community, your friends, and you can't control the world, but there you can make the biggest difference if everybody just did that.
Everybody in America is a part of a system, right? So by engaging in a life-affirming system that you can see directly in front of you, you're protesting, right? That's real activism. This kind of stuff where you sit and block roadways and light yourself on fire and all this.
Just scaring people more, man.
Well, and, it just happened near me down in New Haven, and, the students blocked traffic, and they sitting in the road and all this stuff, and it happened on the San Francisco Bridge, right? It happened in, like, cities all across the country. And again, like, I'm not unsympathetic to that. I believe in what they're protesting for. I think it's long overdue, I mean, a lot of fringe college kids have been talking about Palestine issue for a while.
Yeah.
But, shout out New England Dirt Road. He said this is the second time someone's been, who's lit themselves on fire. The first person that was covered in the media doing it, because there was a third, actually. So there's someone before these two, and it wasn't really covered in the media. And I only heard about it because of the first one that everybody remembers that happened a couple months ago. And that was in front of an embassy, I think the Israeli embassy in New York or some other big city. And he was in the military, this guy. I don't know if he was enlisted, or if he was former military, but that, to me, is a red flag as far as...
Yeah, because it's just like, it happens at the most perfect time during, and
also they filmed themselves doing it. I don't know if this guy filmed himself doing it, but the first guy that was covered in the media filmed himself doing it. I think the one that wasn't covered in the media also filmed himself doing it. But it's just, again, I don't want to beat the point up, but I don't think the people in the Buddhist monks who did that were necessarily doing that because it was some sort of like ancient Buddhist belief. Like, that was activism, right? And I think it's a very, it's extreme because of the war wars are extreme. This war complex that America is a part of, and other Western countries and other countries around the world. It's not just English-speaking countries. The wars is bad.
Cause and effect, though, is so freaking powerful, though. Like the ripple effect of cause and effect. Like we could talk about the greatest, like everything that's on the TV all the fucking time, and nothing changes. Nothing changes when we're focused on that. But you could go out into your community and a gas station could be ripping you off 40 cents. You only got 2 gas stations in your community. One gas station's charging you 40 more cents than the other one, and the other one's trying to communize everybody in a certain way. And you could stand up to that. You don't have to get crazy. You could just look people in the eye, be nice, be whatever, show them love, and then ask them, do you think that's right? I don't think it's right. And then one of your neighbors is up there pumping gas, and they're like, yeah, man, this ain't right. That's not right. And it kind of ripples out. And then the owner of the gas station is like, shit, this isn't right. Maybe we shouldn't do this. And then that gas station owner talks to his uncle who runs another gas station in Little Rock or another city. And they're like, hey, we just had this thing. People don't. My point is like, if you take it back to Hermetics, we don't understand our own power by the Hermetics alone. They take that away from us when they get us to focus on the big thing all the time. Look at the big thing on the TV, right? Forget about your community and all that little stuff. Look at the big scary thing on the TV. You see what I mean? Like, that's what's going on. That's what pisses me off. And it's not just that. It's in everything. Relationships, conscious exploration, business, like every little thing. It's so simple. Treat other people the way you want to be treated. And just look at Hermetics and do what you can in your life. And you may never see the ripple effect of it, but it's there. It's always there. We don't get the payoff of the ripple effect sometimes. We don't. But I promise you, it's there. I know that sounds cheesy, man, but like it's there. It's powerful, man.
It works in bad and good,
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Karma, I think that's how most people might know it, karma. But when it comes to like this personal, like your personal self-immolation, I think that's kind of, again, like it's a non-constructive way to combat this issue going on. And so I don't think people should take this guy and make him into a hero.
Right, a martyr, like a saint or something.
Yeah, because it's going to play into that whole thing of like, oh, these conspiracy theorists are crazy and they're going to light themselves on fire unless...
Yeah, dude, you're right about that. You are right about that.
And it's going to be used, whether he was pro-Trump or anti-Trump, is going to be used to further confuse people around this whole nonsense trial that they have Trump in right now, which is right in front of it. And again, the symbolism's all there. Chris Knowles and I talked about it a bunch. The episode will be out.
Look at the big ritual on the TV. Focus on the ritual on the TV, right? Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, I'm laughing because people are like, they're just constantly chatting about how much weed you're smoking. And I'm jealous because like, I can't smoke the weed they have nowadays, dude. If I was smoking what you're smoking right now, I'd be hyperventilating, having a panic attack on the air right now. I can't. I'm not. I could drink with the best of them, man. Hell, I could probably go to a party and do acid. Maybe a few bumps even. Hadn't done that in a while. I could probably do that. But the weed they have nowadays, it's too strong for me, bro. I don't know how you guys, Night Stalker, you too. I guess it's like a tolerance thing. You just build it up over time, It has to be.
Yeah, like I was saying on the break, it's dedication.
Dedication, right? Yeah.
I'm dedicated.
Oh, dude. Like, when's the last time you got so high you were freaking out?
Well, it's funny because I don't know. I have a very positive relationship with cannabis. I think I don't think it works the same for everybody, but I'll get like paranoia more often than not, that I'm kind of recognizing now is kind of like, just like it manifests as anxiety sometimes, depending on, but usually it's easier to recognize for me when I'm stoned. It's more like the times that I haven't smoked where, maybe I'm like a certain way and then I'm like, oh.
When you say paranoid, what do you mean? Like the cops are outside, or is everybody's looking at you paranoid?
No, it's more just like hyper vigilance, I guess, where like there's like today I was on a hike and, it's not unreasonable to think that there would be a black bear. I
got you. Okay.
Because I've seen black bears, but when it gets to a point where like I smoke a little bit like I did today, and then I'm sitting around and I'm the only one out there and it's super remote and there are black bears around and I'm not experienced hiking in this kind of terrain. So I'm just like, it's all new to me. Right. So in that sense, yeah, I was a little paranoid today on my hike after I got high. But other than that, I really don't. I mean,
well, weed is a drug you can still trust nowadays too, right? I mean, you can get it in stores if you want. You can still buy it from buddies. If you go,
you gotta grow it yourself.
You can grow it yourself too. Yeah,
that's my only recommendation. Because honestly, like I don't really trust street dealers.
They put fentanyl in weed now. I'm sure they do.
No. I just think that like it's become like there's a lot of like street tricks that used to exist. People know like you could get ripped off buying weed because you'll buy bad quality weed. But nowadays what they'll do is they'll like candy coat bad weed with like a ton of like wax basically, but they make it look like kind of hashy. So it almost looks like just like a bud that's like super crystally. But then you get into it and it turns into like this powder and it's just super dry. And I've gotten bud from dispensaries too that was like that. So it's just like, yeah, I don't know. You gotta know the person you're picking up from is interested in organic, high quality, natural bud.
It's a conspiracy, YouTube. Is Mark really smoking weed or is he smoking nicotine?
Well, the YouTubers are onto something because I'm smoking actually tobacco was grown in the same state that I live in, but I'm putting weed inside of the tobacco. This is a thing called a backwoods, folks. You might not know what a backwoods.
You got to be a real hippie to know what a backwood is, right?
Got to be cool to know what a backwoods is. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but
no, Mark Steeves never pats himself on the back.
When I was younger, people used to be really impressed at parties with how quick I could roll one of these things up, and people would be like, "Oh man, nobody rolls them like you, man." I even had people hit me up like, "Oh, hey man, it's 420. Could you come by and like roll some of these up for us? Cause we So I have a reputation for.
You got a reputation. My cousin, man, I don't want to bust him out. I know he watches the show every now and then just to pick on me, but before he got locked up, we used to go to the mall. Back in the day when you go to the mall and do your thing at the mall, kind of thugging it a little bit when you're younger. We would go into the bathroom. Like, he'd just go into the bathroom, dude, and I swear on everything, he'd open a paper, right? He'd just open it up. He wouldn't even twist the ends or anything. He'd just, like, fold the ends, throw a weed in it, lick it, and roll it on his leg a couple times. I swear, he'd just roll it on his leg, and it was like he'd roll them that fast. And I'm like, there's no way we're going to be able to smoke that thing. But sure enough, we'd go out, the kind of side exit of the mall, walk down the side, and it would smoke perfect. And I'm like, how the hell is he doing that?
I've seen all the tricks. I've seen people go like that and roll one up, and it would smoke good. But I put a lot of like TLC into my method, and the way I smoke a backwoods is, it's a special thing. It's like a connoisseur. When somebody loves something for a long time, they put time into it. Like I don't just buy like any cigar off the rack, like I look at the pack and I'm like, hold on, are these fresh? Were these grown recently, or have they been sitting in a warehouse for 2 years? So all that shit matters when you're smoking, especially it's going in your lungs.
I'm a tobacco guy, and people think it's stupid. They're like, that's dumb. It doesn't do anything for you, but it does for me, right? Like it definitely does for me.
There's a lot of conspiracy around that because there's all this propaganda about it that tobacco is bad. And that's just to throw people off from the real problem, which is the pesticides. Because if you look at history, old men have been smoking tobacco pipes into their 90s without cancer and all these issues. It was only when, JP, whoever, and all these big companies came in and put money into big ag and made these like super farms where they sprayed pesticides on the tobacco. That's when you start having people.
I do freak out around any kind of pesticides, even when you can weed killers, anything. Like when my neighbors spray it, like I get all these. I smell it and I'm like, dude, I want to get away from it so bad,
I quit not a good job. I should have quit it anyways for other reasons, but I quit a job because of that once. Because I was like, they were asking me to do some stuff with pesticides, and I'm like, you know what, this job isn't for me. I'm out of here. I don't want to have this conversation, But yeah, no, I'm very wary about it. Call me a hippie, but
you are a hippie, Mark. No one has to call you one. You are one.
I think I'm a mystic, but Sam
Tripoli, hippie mystic.
Sam Tripoli told me it's stupid to give yourself a nickname.
Yeah, because you're branding yourself when you don't have to do that. You're just Mark, dude.
Well, yeah, Mystic Mark is how I introduce myself on my own podcast. I would never introduce myself that way. I might have, but I have never done it in person. That's for
Mark
sure.
flatters himself. Don't let this guy fool you. He likes to flatter himself.
Never in person have I ever introduced myself as Mystic Mark, but on podcast probably. Yes, on my own podcast for sure.
What would I call myself? I don't even know, man.
Juicy Joe.
Juicy Joe. This is Juicy Joe. Like I can't.
You already have a name. You said you called yourself the voice of the night.
When?
At the beginning.
No, I said that's what I used to want to do, right? Like I wanted to be it wasn't even me. It was like the mystery of the voice, right? Is what I liked. Theater of the mind, that's what radio was all about. But we don't even have that anymore. You have to do video now, like you have to. I am a pretty good Southern voice, though. I wouldn't see it. I think we have a natural tendency. It's like we want to be like this superhero kind of thing. That's why everybody likes watching the WWF. You got your own name. You got your own walk down music. Like you're a big deal. And everybody's like, oh, it's the hero's journey. Everybody wants to look at themselves that way.
Yeah, well, and I think it helps to have confidence in this social media world where everybody's trying to be their own celebrity.
Eminem, Mystic Mark. There you go. You can't do the Eminem, though. No, that is cool, but like, nah.
I'm not. Listen, this isn't up for debate. The name of
it's
my
Mystic
podcast
Mark
is what it is, and what I call myself on my own podcast is what it is. Like I said, you won't catch me introducing myself in person that way.
Yeah, don't give yourself a nickname. Don't ever do that.
Oh, no, that's different. But it's funny. Someone's like, Mark doesn't inhale. I just did a French inhale. I could do a normal.
You're not. He's been inhaling the whole time, right?
I could blow a smoke ring. I mean, what do I have to do to prove that I'm smoking?
Dude, if you go down that road and you start trying to like satisfy them folks, they're going to play with you all night.
Yeah, they're going to turn me into shoe nice and have me pull stuff out of the cabinet or something. Yeah.
Yeah, we did go over. I'm sorry about that. It was a cool conversation. I hadn't talked to Mark in a long time, so whatever, It's like once a year, maybe once every 6 months. Actually, when I called you today, I was it was out of the blue. I was like, man, I want to just see what Mark's doing.
Yeah, you go have a new number. I got like 3 numbers for your contact now, but
I change my phone number sometimes.
When I see the Arkansas on the caller ID, I know it.
Yeah, who else is calling you from Arkansas? I mean,
that's right. Unless it's some weird federal organization, it's probably Joe. Who knows what law I broke, but yeah, the conversations are always good, and it doesn't have to be in 6-month intervals. I could be a regular guest here, but that's up to the audience. I mean, if they want a backwoods rolling 101 class. We can arrange.
We should do that. We should like have Mark roll like 5 joints or something and just judge them like 1 to 10. How did he do in style? How did he do in, you know?
Oh, you mean like different types? Like I can't just do like.
Yeah, can you do what's your, like, do you have a fast roll? Like I told you, like my cousin, he's got the perfect roll, but he also has the leg roll thing too, you know?
Yeah, well, maybe I shouldn't say this on the radio, but yeah, no, I've seen some tricks, but again, like I don't need
tobacco, guys. Come on.
I don't need to do like some kind of like trick. Like I could do it within 30 seconds if I have everything.
So you can't do a fast roll. That's a pretty good explanation of you saying you can't do a fast roll. I appreciate
30
that.
30 seconds? 30 seconds is pretty damn fast, Joe.
Very mellow conversation.
Who's saying that?
Is your channel Mark PS?
That's my name on YouTube, but my channel, you can find it by doing, I think, YouTube / my family thinks I'm crazy.
Yeah, and I'll just search my family or go to the website. He's got every single link to everything on his website.
People listening on YouTube, you know, I hate to say it, but not all my best episodes are on YouTube just because I don't want to risk tanking my channel by putting like some, you know, edgy stuff on there. So if you want the whole podcast, you got to find it on a podcast app. But occasionally when I have time, I upload the video episodes to YouTube and
Rockfin.
Typically the episodes that get into more of like the supernatural, spiritual, paranormal type stuff. I save the conspiracy stuff for the podcast app because I just don't want to risk. I've had my channel taken, strikes and all that stuff.
See, they've taken down like big time videos but I still have not gotten a strike. Like they just take them down.
I had David Icke on the show, so
really,
yeah, I guess he's on some list or whatever.
But he's all over YouTube. How the hell is this guy like? How are you getting a strike because of it?
I think it was just the timing. Like it was right at the beginning of 2022, I think. So all the COVID stuff was still real hot in the algorithm. So they were just banning anything that resembled that. So David Icke was on some lists back then. And yeah, so ever since then I've been, you know, certain episodes don't make their way to YouTube, unfortunately. But yeah, if you like YouTube, I am on Patreon and I upload all of my stuff to unlisted YouTube, which doesn't affect my public channel. So if you really, really love YouTube and you only use YouTube, you can pay $5 a month and then you can access some of those controversial video episodes. But unfortunately, just the way Zoom is, I don't always have the opportunity to interview somebody and record the video. Sometimes the connection isn't great, so I tell the guest to turn their video off. I turn my video off, and then I only record the audio. So there's not a video version for every episode, unfortunately. But one day I'll have it figured out, and I'll have maybe a stronger Wi-Fi, or not Wi-Fi, but stronger internet connection, bandwidth. So all the more reason to tell people to support the Patreon. But anyways, this has been fun, Joe. I love.
I guarantee you, I need support probably more than you do right now.
No, you definitely, yeah, maybe. You probably should.
But it doesn't matter. Like I feel like it doesn't matter. I feel like
the more the merrier.
Yeah,
you know.
I don't have a lack mindset. Look, if you find value in the stuff you love, support it. And even the people that don't support it financially, they spread the word. You know, so
I think the people that can support my $5 tier can also pay however much for your supporters feed. And
you say that, or we all say that, but then when they look at their bank account at the end of the month, they've got 45 subscriptions on it, and they're using that Rocket fucking
irresponsible.
You know,
here's the thing, and we don't have to go too long, but I have a kind of altruistic view of it because I've been a supporter of like a bunch of different podcasts for a while. And there's been periods in my life where I'm like, I can't afford to do this, but I've never really canceled unless I've stopped listening because I kind of believe in like, supporting this stuff, and that good karma has helped.
It's work, man, too. It's a lot of work. Secondly, YouTube's got us too, man. Like I work so hard to be able to get monetized on YouTube, right? Just to still do my podcast the way I want to do it, but get monetized on YouTube. But then they have $100 threshold, right? So you can't even touch it until it reaches $100. So I've got people that have donated on there for the first time. It's just hanging there, and I'm like, what is that? Backwoods. So what are they going to do? They're going to hold that $50 for the next 6 or 7 years? I say give it back to the people, man. YouTube shouldn't have this much power. It's wrong.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think YouTube plays games with people. I know a couple channels that have issues like that. Luckily, my show's not big enough to have those issues. I didn't mean to interject with the backwoods. Somebody in the chat was like, those joints don't look like joints. And I'm like, yeah, because they're not joints. They're backwoods.
It's tobacco. He told you it was tobacco.
Cigars. People, hey, weed's only becoming legal in a lot of places recently, and not every state has like an underground drug culture. I was just fortunate enough to be raised in a shitty community.
Well, it was good to have you back on the show, man. And I recommend everybody at the very least, put Mark's podcast feed in your player and listen to it, because a lot of us started listening to Mark when he started out. I kind of think I was around when Mark first started out, and the damn show has become, it's amazing, right? Like it's become a legit authentic podcast, and I don't have any personal friends or even any hardcore personal associates that I deal with that are not authentic OGs, like people that say what they feel, they know what they believe, and they're like trying to be everybody's buddy. All I would say though, Mark is probably one of the nicer ones, and he takes a lot of shit from a lot of people and still puts out heavy content a lot of times, dude. So I appreciate what you do, brother.
Yep. Thank you.
Like that flattery?
No, thanks. I say the same about you on my show, Joe. So don't worry. It's all reciprocal.
Yeah, next time you come on, I might smoke with you. I haven't smoked in a long time, but if you guys actually want to see me have a panic attack, if that'll get more views, I'll do it. If you'll donate, I'll do it. But I'm not gonna get too. I can't get stoned. I'll make a fool of myself. I told you when I went and spoke at the thing that Grimerica did, like it was one of the first times, second or third time I actually did a speech, right? So they paid us to go down there to speak and present to people, and freaking Carlwood got me so high, the only thing I could do was hear people breathing. That's it. That's all I could do. And I freaked out, and I actually thought I was going to die, and I think I ruined my speaking career at that point. Like, it's over, Well,
here's the thing. I've always said that like the panic and the paranoia that comes with smoking weed is coming from a true place that you can address, right? It's not like an allergic reaction. No. It's not like peanut butter where you can't ever have it again because it'll kill you. Like some people used to think that way. I think now in like legal states, the stress of smoking weed has gone down considerably. But in the past, like people would freak out because they would get high and they'd be like, oh shit, like if I get in trouble right now, I'm fucked. And then that idea would just screw with them.
Oh man, for me, dude, like, when the crowd's roaring, you're at a party and everybody's talking, there's background noise, the vibes are good, right?
And zone out.
Yeah, and then someone's they're passing joints around, it's a good time, and it's like, oh, time to speak. Okay, then you get on the microphone and everybody goes quiet and they're just looking at you, just mouth breathing,
Well,
and your heart's sitting there going, because mine, I don't know which one is it, sativa or the other one. One of them gets me really going.
It's an introspective experience, It's not a party. It's not a party drug. I've conditioned myself over a long period of time to be a little bit weird, but I think for most people, cannabis is super introspective. And for someone like me who is already really introspective, I think it pushed me out of my shell somehow.
Yeah, very deep.
A lot of people, it just like draws them inward, so they can't smoke in social situations. And I was just talking about this with somebody.
I would have been fine if I didn't have to speak. I'd have been fine. It would have been cool.
Yeah.
It was just the sudden silence and the mouth breathing that, like, it triggered. Let's put it in your way. It triggered some existential crisis on the inside of me. You know. And I was like, I couldn't land the plane. You know. I was like, I'll just do a better speech tomorrow. And then that night, what's his name? Darren from Grimerica, right? I said, look, and you're right, Genevieve. I said, look, if it's about bedtime, if you got some indica, I'll smoke that. He's like, yeah, no, here's this, and it's dipped in this, right? It's all indica. And I should have known better because it was Darren, you know. And I hit that thing like 3 or 4 times, and Owen was beside me, fixing to go to bed. And then he looks at it and he goes, oh, shit. No, this isn't the indica. This is the sativa stuff, right? And then my heart is just beating again, dude. Like I'm trying to go to bed, and now I feel like I don't know how to explain how I felt, but I had to slam vodka, you know, just to try to level myself back out so I could sleep, you know.
Joe, you wore your heart on your sleeve, and I think Darren took advantage of you.
That's Darren.
I think he played a whole Indian trick on you, and he told you it was sativa, even though it was indica
or something.
The placebo effect got to your head.
No, it was like for sure, because Owen told me that too. Like he said, and this is the funny part, right? I'm being honest about how I feel. I'm like, listen, I just explained everything I was feeling in the craziest way, and everybody's laughing, right? But when you go to another room, even his girlfriend came over. She's like, hey, I'm just telling, and 2 people did this. They're like, I'm just wanting to tell you, like, I was freaking out too. I just didn't want to say anything because, like, I'm afraid I was going to get made fun of. And I'm like, doesn't that make you feel like you're going to freak out even more because you're worried about what other people think?
And then you're like, now I'm freaking out.
Yeah. Just say it, man. You know, like just say it. But it's funny to me. Anyways, we're gonna get out of here. And next time we have Mark on, I'll say this though. I'll try something. I'll have to make sure I get the right stuff.
Maybe here's my recommendation. Maybe
I'm not afraid.
Maybe get some, you're in Arkansas, so maybe get some Delta 9. I don't know. Maybe that's a bad Delta 9.
No, I want some natural flower, man. I don't want any synthetic stuff.
Well, not necessarily synthetic. It's just a loophole, but it's still weed. But, maybe try an edible because you could manage the dosage a little bit easier, you know, and it would hit you in a different way than it would if you smoked it. You might prefer.
I can smoke. I think you're right. I can smoke fine. It's just certain things trigger it. There's like a trigger moment, you know.
Well, who knows? You're in Arkansas. I've never been there. Maybe you got some good weed down there. Maybe it's some Mexican dirt weed. Who knows? So be careful.
We're gonna end on that. Maxie, Mark turned this whole scary situation of a deep thing into like a fun. That's what weed does. We should just. That's it. Well, that's probably what's going to solve all of this existential crisis we're all going through. Is just one big smoke fest. Let's just do it and then move on with our lives. You know, right? I'm down with that. Thanks for coming on, Mark. MyFamilyThinksI'mCrazy.com. Give them a follow. Support them. Help them out. Support the Fringe FM if you can. Oh, by the way, there's another way you can support too, the ad-free content. You can subscribe to that 800 and something episodes of ad-free podcast for $2 freaking at Spreaker too. $2. I get $1 of that. They get $1. That's not much. Think about that. Come on, you got $1. We'll be back tomorrow night. Good night, y'all. Sweet dreams.
We do not dominate these forces. They dominate us. Life on Earth is getting more and more complicated every generation. There's no room for the inner life.
Back to work, separating grassroots from astral turf. As half-truths they tried to pass off as facts emerge. Keep me tethered to the ground, bring me back to earth. When I blast off and take my place in the galactic church. I'm trying to grasp light and dark's vacillations. In the white room with black curtains at the station. Cream makes the world spin like dervishes and Daytons. It leads men astray into the serpent's machinations. With strictures and cave wall flicks to hypnotize. I eat my daily tripe with bare hands, it's undignified. The mantra on the cloven tongue of mammoths like nails. On a chalkboard inside the stomach of a white whale. Eyes popping out the sockets, watching profits line pockets. And the price of bought and sold souls skyrocket. Walk a road, rob with skulls, not with gold. Fraught with signs, roadblocks, and obstacles that defy logic. Life's a package deal. You take the beautiful days with dark nights and dance with Maya in the starlight. It's alright. We wax and we wane. There's wildflowers growing from the cracks in my brain. Dry your eyes, revitalize. Alive and well, practicing my aim by a grave of fireflies that felt like Simon Magus from the sky and hit the